Hi, Talesian here, and they've just released the patch notes for the mid-season patch. And I just wanted to go over them really quick and let you know what I find and what my thoughts are. One of the first things that you'll notice here is that we greatly appreciate everyone's excitement since the launch of Season 4 and are very happy with the state of the game. The changes in this patch are aimed at buffing classes and builds that are not performing as well as their counterparts. We're also slightly reducing the difficulty of the pit to ensure that most builds are able to get to tier 60 to get their final tier masterworking materials. Now, I think this is overall a good thing. Let's see how far they go. Some of the balance updates, they're changing some of the healing potions, increasing the initial healing done by them, changing aspect of protector, and they're changing some of the items. This is an interesting change here. In Dario's Visage, a poison nova now spawns on the enemy instead of the player. That's going to make a few changes to those builds that you use in Dario's Visage. Having it start on you tend to plan your strategy out depending on where the poison nova is going to start. But now that it's spawning on the enemy, if you can get it out there, you can get a whole bunch of them. So I think it's going to change some strategies and probably make Dario's Visage a little more powerful. And of course, they increased the Nova damage by 50% as well. So that's murder. Changes to Doombringers, Rings of Starless Skies, Materials Night, Divine Barrage damage increased by 100%. That's going to be interesting too. We'll have to see again how well this plays out. Stat requirements for the Paragon board. Stat requirements for non-main stats reduced from 90 to 60. A class's main stat is one that increases the damage of all of their skills. For example, Sorceress's Intelligence. So this change affects their rare Paragon nodes that have threshold bonuses for Dexterity and Willpower. The stat requirements to activate any rare node increases for each additional Paragon board you progress through. Some of these nodes that require non-main stats were harder to activate than intended. This change makes it easier to activate these nodes, especially on later Paragon boards. And I have to agree. I was, working on my Frost Nova Sorceress, and as I was going through and planning out my Paragon board a bit, I noticed a lot of the later rare nodes. There's no way I would ever hit the amount of bonus that was needed because of all the other stat changes and stuff they put in. So doing this change, I think, is going to make things easier for people to, we'll get it right. There we go. That's the way I want to point. We'll make it easier for people to go ahead and meet those rare nodes. And I think that's a good thing. Next, I go into the class-based skills. Whirlwind, they increased damage by 50% for Barbs. Damage bonus increased 30 to 35 for Violent Whirlwind. Call the Ancients, they increased damage across the board. Frenzy is increased damage, and Flay, it looks like they increased the vulnerable duration and bleed damage bonuses and so forth. So it was basically a buff to Barbarians. Some of the passive points, the changed pressure point and tough as nails. Additional thorns is bleeding damage increased from 10 to 15%. That's going to help Thorns Barbs a lot. Walking Arsenal damage for unique source of weapon damage increased from 10 to 12. Okay. Legendary aspects. Dust Devil damage increased by 100%. Aspect Relentless Arm Master. 35 and 50% reduced Fury cost your skills while all bonuses on the Walking Arsenal key are passive. That's going to be huge. Not only the increased Fury generation, but adding to reduce Fury cost. That's huge. And Devastating Gifts and Ancient Swords. Druids. Let's see what they got for Druids here. Maximum Spirit increased. Gift of the Stag. Prickle Skin. Thorns increased by 100%. Iron Feather. Maximum life increase from 14 to 20. Obsidian Slam kills required to guaranteed overpower reduced from 20 to 10. That's gonna make Obsidian Slam a little more useful. Rabies poisoning damage increased by 25%. Pulverized damage increased by 76%. That's going to be huge right there. And then going over Raging Pulverize looks good too. Passives. Perfect Storm damage increased to 20-30. Toxic poisoning increased. A lot of these are buffs. You're seeing a lot of buffs across the board for a lot of abilities, and those ones that are doing really, really well, they're not nerfing them. They're leaving them alone, and I think that's a good thing. Werewolf Companion damage is increased from Aspect of Alpha. Aspect of Earth Landside damage increased. These are all definitely buffs. They increased the sacrifice upgrades by about 5% across the board. Excuse me. Yeah, all the sacrifice was increased across the board. Everything for the sacrifices. That's nice. Paragon board, Blood Drinker get fortify bonus increase 7 to 10% of your maximum life. That's good. Yeah, these are all huge buffs across the board. Rogue Twisting Blades, initial damage increased by 20, return damage by 20, flurry damage increased by 25%. Lucky Hit no longer requires direct damage to proc for exposure. Will now also work on damage over time effects. That's going to make exposure interesting. Fluidity GIF, versatility GIF, explosive GIF. Yep, all damages are increased. Fluidity used to be when you cast an agility skill, you gain 9% increased regeneration. Now you gain 10% increased damage and 15% increased energy. Yeah, that's going to make fluidity probably a must grab for a few people. Blade Dangerous aspect, damage increased from 30 to 60 to 50 to 80. The only changes were grenades drop when using Shadow Step. Yeah, okay. Okay. Aspect of Surprise. Grenade damage increased by 200%. When using Shadow Step, grenades now drop to the location the player teleports to instead of where they teleported from. That, I think, makes sense. It makes sense. Grenade damage increased 50%. Triggers aspect. Arrow Storm. Yeah, everything is a buff right across the board, which is huge. Sorcerers. Ice Armor. Barrier increased from 30% base life from 25. Shimmering Teleport duration increased to 4 seconds. Damage reduction increased from 15 to 20% for Incinerate. Glass Cannon additional damage for taken is reduced, so that's a buff. Warmth is good. Yeah, this is huge. Veer's Mastery bonus damage increased 15 to 20. Bonus damage after critical strike from 20 to 25. Additional Chain Lightnings increased on Aspect of Work and Tether. Mage Lord's aspect. Veer's Mastery grants 69 damage reduction reach close enemy. Now it's tripled while fighting a close enemy. That's interesting. That's interesting. So you can get up to 27 still. That's going to be interesting. I think it makes Lord's aspect more powerful even against bosses. That could be very interesting. Max was okay, yeah. Flame Scar. Notice they didn't change Frozen Winter Orb, and they also didn't change Flicker Strike either. I was actually expecting him to change Flicker Strike because there's a combo I was running on my Ice Source using Flicker Strike, and I was able to basically almost constantly spam my ultimate. It was kind of scary. Endgame. Health and damage levels have been reduced in the pit. The adjustment is most event as players approach tier 60, so more players can fully participate in masterworking. We're adjusting the pit so that more players can enjoy a smoother endgame experience. That's good because I was getting up to the 40s and 45s, and I was noticing with my Frozen Orb Sorcerer, it was really starting to get a little dicey there whether I could continue. All tormented bosses have had their health reduced by 30. It includes Blood Boils and Tormented Echo of Lilith. All right, that might make Lilith, because that's another thing I've been working about Frozen Orb. I've done about 10 tries on Lilith, both on camera and off, and I haven't been able to get Lilith yet. So I'm hoping this works. Here's a good one. Fixed an issue where Holy Boat's elixir damage was scaling unintentionally high when it was triggered from pets such as Necromancer Millions. Excuse me. Holy Bolt's elixir now deals a percentage of your weapon damage rather than the percentage of the enemy's health. This change is intended to reduce its effectiveness against the toughest enemies in the higher tiers of the pit, but will still be really valuable for players throughout the whole game. We made the change alongside a reduction to the health of enemies in the pit, so players who are delving deep in the pit aren't heavily affected. That's good. I was using a lot of Holy Bolts on some of my characters, and it almost felt like I was cheating. So I think this makes it a little more fair. It should be triggered based on the weapon. So I think that's a fair upgrade. And fixated for casting boulders with Dolmen Stone will cause it not to cast at all. Boulders now have a limit of 10, but their damage is increased by 10% for each boulder. And Rapid Fire with Scoundrel's Kiss. That's good. Players couldn't properly hit close targets. It could sometimes fire projectiles behind the player. That's not good. I'm glad they fixed that. And issue where pets are being counted as minions in various cases. Yeah, I noticed that too. I like my pet, but he's not a minion. He should be treated differently. But very briefly, that's all of the updates that are going on. The patch is due to actually go live on the 17th of June. Let me double check real quick here. Going back up to the top. Come on. Yep. It's supposed to start 17 June is when this patch is supposed to go live. So keep an eye out for that. and I'm still working on some other videos. I'll hopefully have them out. Probably going to be early next week before I do, because I'm still writing up my scripts for them. But I wanted to get this information about the patch out to you as soon as I could. So have a good day, and we'll see you in game. Take care.